Hi, welcome back. We have read through 3 chapters of Frendel. Now we're ready for chapter 4. Last time we read, Nick had a plan to get to where Miss Granger wouldn't assign homework, and that did not work out so well for Nick. Everyone still got homework, and Nick got an extra assignment where he had to research where words come from and give an oral report the next day in class. Nick did not like this. In fact, it said he felt very, very small. Now we're on chapter 4, and that chapter is called Word Detective. Word Detective. If I was going to make a prediction, I would say that this is probably going to be about Nick doing the research he needs for his oral report. In fact, I think Nick is going to be our word detective. But the only way to find out is to read chapter 4. So let's give that a go. It was a beautiful September afternoon. Bright sun, cool breeze, blue sky. But not for Nick. Nick had to do a little report for the next day, plus copy out all the definitions for 35 words for Miss Granger. This was not the way school was supposed to work. Not for Nick. There was a rule at Nick's house. Homework first, and that meant right after school. Nick had heard his older brother, James, groan and grumble about this rule for years, right up until he graduated from high school 2 years ago. And then James wrote home from college after his first semester, and he said, "My grades are looking great, because when I came here, I already knew how to put first things first." Hey, Nick's brother is following one of our 7 habits, putting first things first. And in fact, that's the rule that his parents put in place at his house. You got to come home, do what's most important first. That would be your homework. And then you can probably have your playtime, your free time, go outside, do what you want to do. So one of our 7 habits, right there in the book. That letter was proof Nick's mom and dad had been looking for. Homework first was the law from September to June. This had never bothered Nick before because he hardly had homework. Oh, sure, he looked over his spelling words on Thursday, and then there'd been a few short book reports in 4th grade, but other than that, nothing. Up to now, schoolwork never spilled over into his free time. But thanks to Mrs. Granger, those days were gone. Now, before I continue, I want to show you the illustration. The caption here is homework first, and we see Nick at the desk, and I think you can tell by looking at him just exactly how he feels. Not too thrilled. First, he looked at the definitions in the brand new red dictionary that his mom had bought, because Mrs. Granger told her to. It took almost an hour. He could hear a baseball game in John's yard down the street, yelling and shouting, and every few minutes the sharp crack of a bat connecting with a pitch. But he had a report to do. For Miss Granger. Nick looked at the very front of the dictionary. There was an introduction to the book called Words and Their Origins. Perfect, Nick thought. It was just what he needed to do his report. It would be all over in a few minutes. Nick could already feel the sun and the breeze on his face as he ran outside to play. Homework all done. I wonder if things are going to go as smoothly as he's planning on them to. Then Nick read the first sentence from the introduction. Okay, so the next part I'm going to read looks different. The author made it look different. You see how the words kind of look all sideways in italics, like they're leaning? That's the author telling us that what we're about to read is what Nick's reading. Did you see how long that was? The author told us that that is just one sentence. Just one sentence. That's a long sentence, right? I wonder if it's going to be a difficult sentence to understand. Let's find out. Without question, this modern American dictionary is one of the most surprisingly complex and profound documents ever to be created, for it embodies unparalleled etymological detail, reflecting not only superb lexicographic scholarship, but also the dreams and speech and imaginative talents of millions of people over thousands of years. For every person who has ever spoken or written in English has had a hand in its making. Whoa. Long sentence, complicated sentence. I'm thinking Andrew Clements put that in there so that we feel just like Nick does, confused. I'm thinking Nick read that sentence not fully understanding what it means. And I think that that's how most of us are probably feeling when I just read that. So instead of me explaining what it means, I'm going to let us feel the way Nick feels, confused, because I think that's what the author intended. So we're going to do what the author wants us to do and be confused about what this dictionary is telling us. What? Nick scratched his head and read it again. And then he read it again. Not much better. It was sort of like trying to read the ingredients on a shampoo bottle. He slammed the dictionary shut and walked downstairs. Nick's family did a lot of reading, so bookshelves covered 3 of the 4 walls in the family room. There were 2 sets of encyclopedias. The black set was for the grown-ups, and the red set was for the kids. Nick pulled out the D volume from the red set and looked up dictionary. There were 3 full pages with headings like Early Dictionaries, Word Detectives, and Dictionaries Today. Not very exciting. But he had to do it. So Nick just plopped down on the couch and read all of it. And when he was finished with the kids' books, he opened up the black encyclopedia and read most of what was said about dictionaries too. He understood only about half of what he read. He leaned back on the couch and covered his eyes with his arm, trying to imagine himself giving a report on all of this boring stuff. He'd be lucky to have 3 minutes worth, but because Nick was Nick, he suddenly had an idea, and a bright grin came on his face. Nick decided that giving this report could actually be fun. He could make it into something special. After all, Mrs. Granger had asked for it. All right, so that is the end of that chapter. In a way, we were right. Nick was our word detective. He was the one doing the research, figuring out where words come from. He even went to 2 sets of encyclopedias, one for kids and then one for parents. But I did find it interesting that one of the subheadings in the encyclopedia was also word detectives. In my opinion, when authors do that, it's usually not an accident. They usually put that in there on purpose. It's probably going to play some part in our story. It might be important as we keep working our way up that plot mountain. All right, guys, we'll see you next time for the next chapter. Bye.